Hi students, Logan Phillips here. Today's video we're going to be talking about the Microsoft Word environment and specifically working on one of our guided projects. This is for Simnet, so let's go ahead and jump into our environment, check it out, and then start working through the process. So the very first thing I'm doing is I'm opening up into my Simnet dashboard. Now you can see here this is an ongoing Word class. Your dates and due dates and stuff may be a little differently. If you're working with another instructor that's not me, they may be organized a little bit differently. But let's jump to the left-hand side and check on the Projects tab. So we have here the projects, and I've done instructional videos for Guided Project 1-2, Guided Project 2-1, and Guided Project 3-1. So we're going to be working on Chapter 4, and we're going to be going into Guided Project 4-2. Now this is for the Microsoft Word 2016, Guided Project 2016 4-2. Now, when we open this up, we have a few different things that we need to download and work through. Now, the first is we need our instruction file. If you're using a PC like me, you'll need to grab the PC 2013 R16. If you're using a Mac, make sure you grab the Mac instruction file. And of course, we need our start file, and we need an additional file, the resource file. So I'm going to go ahead and download all three of these. We're going to start with our Office instruction. Open that up. And you can see here we are going through it step by step. Now I will be reading off the instruction name. I am working on multiple screens here. So my instruction file will be on a different screen. So let's go ahead and move that over. And I will try to keep you up and say things like I'm on step 6B, stuff of that nature, so you know exactly where I'm at. I would strongly suggest you printing off the instruction file and keeping it with you. It'll make it a lot easier to deal with. The next, we're going to start off with our start file. It doesn't matter if you're using Word, Excel, or Word 1316 or Mac. And this is our start file, and we're going to download our resource file. Now for the resource file, I'm going to go ahead and open up, and I'm going to move it from where my downloads to, which it's probably in your download folder, and I'm going to move it straight to my desktop. So I'm going to click on it, left hold, and I'm going to drag it over to my desktop, and I'm just going to drop it off. And you can see here now we have the resource file. Let's go find it real quick. Word Guided Project 4-2 resources. Excuse my other files. If you're on my video, you're going to have to be forced to look at them. And if we open that up, we can see we have a resource file of a little bit of a picture image here. So let's go ahead and close that down. All right, so we've downloaded our start file, our resource file, and our instruction file. Now, that's all we need at this point. Once we're finished with the assignment, we will upload it to this exact same spot. And then once we've uploaded it, we will choose to submit it for grading. So let's go ahead and minimize our browser. And so we're back at our desktop. Now, keep in mind, this is the Microsoft Word environment. We're on Chapter 4, so we're going to be covering a few different skills in this area. We're going to be inserting and resizing some word art. We're going to be converting some text over to tables. We're going to be applying some styles and views to those tables to make them look a little bit more attractive. And we're going to change the margins of the tables so that data inside of it fits a little bit better. We're also going to be inserting some text into the SmartArt. We're going to resize position. We're going to do some captioning, and we're going to align some things to groups and forms across the document itself. So let's go ahead and open up our document. Now, anything you download from online from the Simnet environment are going to have two important pieces. If you trust me, you're going to want to hit your Enable Editing button. Because if you don't hit this button, no matter what you change to this document, if it allows you to change anything, it's not going to save. So step 1 is Enable Editing. The step 2 is I want you to check and make sure that you see your name at the top in the middle of the screen. If it doesn't say your name, period, last name, and have the name of this document, which is maximum heart rate -04, then something has probably happened and you need to re-download this document. Now, if you found someone else's document online, not saying you're going to do it, I would strongly suggest don't use that document, because once you try to upload it to my website or the Simnet as a whole, it's going to alert your instructor. So if you're trying to find a shortcut key and use someone else's work, you're going to get in trouble. It's going to cost you an F on the assignment, so don't even bother with it. You're paying tuition. You want to learn this stuff. It's important. So since you're paying to take the class, might as well do the work to learn the class. So we have our document open here. We have it with our name. And so let's go ahead and start working on this questions and answers and doing these step by step here. Now I'm going to modify real quick and just get this organized a little easier. All right, so for this project, we're going to modify a document about maximum and target heart rate for the American River Cycling Society or Cycling Club. We're going to arrange text and tables and insert and modify SmartArts and pictures. So let's go ahead and start working on step 1. We've already downloaded it. We've opened it up. We enabled the editing. The step 2 I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my File Backstage View. I'm going to choose File, Save As, and I'm going to put this into my desktop. Now you can choose to save it wherever you particularly like. I'm going to choose to put it into my desktop. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I go to upload it, it'll be a lot easier. All right, so we've gone on step 1 and the step 2. So we're now on to step 3. We're going to insert some word art as the title of the document, and then we're going to modify this word art object. Now, I'm going to give you a quick warning about word art. Microsoft Word's been around for 30 years. Word art's been around for 20. Now, it is great to use in some instances in the real world, but most of the time, word art is not going to come out very nice looking. So if you're doing a professional resume, if you're doing a professional handout, maybe stay away from the word art. Don't overuse it. Don't make it a rainbow of plethora of Comic Sans. Be careful about word art. It can come off very unprofessional. But for our document here, we need to introduce you to the topic and how to use it, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to select the title of the document, which is the American River Cycling Club. Now I'm going to use my left mouse click and highlight all of it. And we're going to choose to include the paragraph mark. Now notice that I don't have a paragraph mark. So I'm going to come up here to my Home tab. And in the paragraph grouping, I'm going to choose to show my Show Hide button. And that's going to give me my paragraph markings and those type of items. So let's highlight everything, including the paragraph mark. And we're going to click on the Word Art button, which is on the Insert tab. And in the text grouping, we have SmartArt, Charts, Pictures, Stores, and we're looking for Word Art. Here we go, in the text grouping, and we're going to choose the Word Art button. Now, in the Word Art button, we're going to select the Fill Red Accent to Outline Accent to. So we got Fill Red, and if you hold your mouse on top of these, I'll actually tell you the name. We got Fill Red Accent to Outline Red Accent to. So it's the third column in, first row. So this is the word art that we're wanting. American River Cycling Club. All right. Next, we're going to change the shape width. So we have it selected here. We're going to come up here to our size grouping, and we can see we have height and width. So let's go ahead and modify this width, and we're going to change it to a 6.5 inch. So I'm just going to type in the 6.5. And again, I'm on the Drawing Tools Format tab, Size Grouping, 6.5, and I'm going to hit Enter. So you can see that increase the size just a hair. Next, on to step 3E, we're going to position this. So right now, it's sort of wherever it popped in on the document. So we want to make sure it's positioned perfectly, exactly where we want it to go. So we're going to go to the Drawing Tools Format tab, which is where we're at already. We're going to choose the Arrange grouping. You can see here the Arrange grouping is to the right-hand side. And we are going to choose to put this arranged as the More Layout Options. Go to the Arrange grouping, Position, to hit the radio button, and we're going to come down to the very bottom, and we're going to choose More Layout Options. Now, from More Layout Options, we are going to choose to align this in the horizontal area. We're going to select Alignment and Centered relative to Margin. So we have our Position tab. We're going to choose Alignment. We're going to choose Centered, and we're going to choose Relative to Margin. Now the margin is the blank spaces on both the left and the right hand side. So I don't want it centered to the document. I want it centered to these blank margins on the right and left hand side. And in the vertical area, we're going to select Absolute Position. So let's go here to Absolute Position, and we're going to choose an Absolute Position and enter 0.2 below. So 0.2 inch below the page. So we're going to put this title exactly 0.2 inches from the top of the document, and we should be able to hit OK at this point. So again, that's alignment, centered to margin, the white spaces on left and right, vertical, absolute position, 0.2 inches from the top of the page. You can see here we got a nice little centered, and it's a little bit just from the top of the page. So we're now on to step 3I. We're going to click on the Text Effects button, which is on the Drawing Tools Format tab. So we have Drawing Tools Format tab. We have Text Effect button in the WordArt Styles group. And we are going to choose a reflection, tight reflection touching. So let's go reflection. And we're going to choose tight reflection, half reflection, tight reflection touching. So it's underneath reflection variations, and it is the first column, first group. You can see here that made a little drop shadow below. It's the exact same image, and it's subdued and sort of disappears into the nothingness. We are now on to step 4, and we're going to convert text to a table, and we're going to format the table. Now, excuse me, my voice is cracking a little bit. We're going to select the text in the table and format the table. So let's select all of the tab text at the bottom of the document. Now you can see here this is the tab text because of these little arrows. Now, when you're working with tab text instead of a table, when you start doing formatting and arranging stuff, it can quickly look hideous, which is why we're going to put it in a table. It sort of locks it into its own little grid system. So we've selected everything from age down to 150 in the bottom right-hand corner. We've done all of the tabbed areas, and we're going to click on the Convert Text to Table dialog box, which is Convert Text to Table, which is inside the Insert tab, and the Tables grouping. And we're going to choose to come down here and hit your radio button underneath the Table group, and we're going to choose to Convert Text to Table. Now, we can see here it's going to ask you, well, how many columns do you want? How many of each of these type of things do you want? So let's go ahead and head to the Auto Fit to Content radio button. So instead of fitting to the width of the document, we're going to fit specifically to the width of the content, and we're going to hit OK. And you can see here we now have a nice little table that's arranged with all the documents are input inside each individual cell. So we're on to step 4E. We're going to click the Table Tools Design tab. So we have Table Tools Design tab, and we're going to verify that this is a header row and banded row boxes. So let's go ahead and find header row and banded row boxes. And you can see banded row boxes, columns. Banded row, banded rows are selected. So header row and banded rows. All right. And the other check boxes are deselected. So let's see. Header row and banded. And first column needs to be unselected. There we go. Next, we're on step 4G. In the Table Styles group, we're going to click on the More button to display the Table Styles gallery. So we have Table Styles in the bottom right-hand corner. We have this More button, our radio button. It gives us drop down. It gives us a bunch of new colors and abilities to come through a little bit more advanced. And we are going to choose the Grid Table 4 Accent 2. So we have grid tables, and 4 is probably the fourth column. 1, nope. So let's go find Grid Table 4, 6, Grid Table 4, okay, and Accent 2. Here we go. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns to the right, and 1, 2, 3 rows down. Grid Table 4, Accent 2, it is red. I'm going to select on that. Now, in the second column of the first row, we're going to place the insertion point before the word zone. So let's go ahead, second column, first row, place the insertion point before the word zone, and then we're going to hit our back button. So all we've done is move the word zone and gotten rid of an empty space there. between HR, or parentheses, and zone. And then we're going to hit enter. Okay. In the third column of the first row, we're going to place the insertion point before heart. So let's go here to heart. And we're going to hit our backspace. And then we're going to press enter. So we're dropping these to 2 levels. So it should be target heart rate, and then zone, and then predicted maximum, and then heart rate. So we are on to step 5, and we're going to adjust the size and alignment of this particular table. So right now it doesn't look very nice. If I come over here to my home tab and turn off the paragraphs, you can see it looks a little bit better that way, but it still doesn't fit very well on the document. So let's turn that back on. We're going to come back to our table tools. Now we're going to choose on step 5, we're going to use the table selector handle to select the entire table. So if we come over here onto the table, on the top left-hand corner, we have these 4-way little arrow. That's going to allow us to select the entire table. We're going to click on the Align Center button, which is on the Layout tab, and we're going to choose to align. Let's see. In the alignment grouping, middle, we're going to choose to align center. So put all of our data into the middle of each of their individual cells. And then we're going to, with the table still selected, select the properties button. So with the I'm losing my place. With the table still selected, we're going to click the properties button, which on the table tools layout tab, table group. So table tools, layout tab, table group, and we're going to choose the properties button. So this brought up a little bit of a new dialog box that is advanced table properties features. And so we're going to click on the cell margins button. And in our cell margins, we are going to choose the table tools layout tab alignment group and the table options dialog box. We're going to change the top and bottom cell margins to 0.3. All right, guys, sorry I missed a step. We're going to choose the table properties. We're going to choose the table tab, and then we're going to choose a center button. Now, with the center and alignment area selected, we're going to hit click K, closing out this table. And so that has moved over the table to the middle of the document. And we're now on to step 5E, and we're going to click on the cell margins button, which is inside the table tools layout tab. And we're going to choose the cell margins, which is in the alignment grouping on the right-hand side. And with our cell margins, we're going to choose a top and bottom of 0.3 or 0.03. Top and bottom, 0.03. And to the left and right margins of 0.1. So we have 0.1 and left, right, 0.1. Then we're going to click on the OK. You can see that it spaced everything out just a little bit, expanded the size of the table. So we are now into step 6, and we're going to insert and modify a SmartArt graphic in this step. So SmartArt graphics are really nice new features that came out in 2013. It allows for a little bit more dynamic showing of data. These are really nice things to use if you're doing professional presentations or handouts. Because they can be updated on the fly with new data and new information, and they can be expanded and shrink down depending on exactly what you're trying to show. So we're going to go into step 6, and we're going to place the insertion point at the end of the second body paragraph, which starts with the word example. So we have example, a 40-year-old predicted heart rate is 180. We're going to choose to put it at the end of the second body paragraph. Okay, so we have our cursor sitting at the end of it. We're going to click on the SmartArt button, which is on the Insert tab. And we're going to choose the Illustrations grouping. And you can see here the illustrations. And in the top right corner of the Illustrations grouping, we have SmartArt. And from here, we're going to choose the graphic opens, and we're going to choose the process in the list of SmartArt presentations. So click on the process in the SmartArt on the left-hand side. And with the process selected, we're going to choose the continuous block process. So let's go ahead and just hover our mouse on top of each of the individual ones. And we got block process, and continuous. So we have the block process that has the arrow behind it, and it is the third row down, first column. We're choosing the continuous block art process. Hit OK. You can see here we now have it inserted pretty clearly there. And so let's go ahead into step 6E. We're going to click on the first placeholder text and type 220. So first placeholder text, and we're going to just type in 220 and space, and type a negative symbol or a hyphen, minus, whatever you want to call it. In the next placeholder, we're going to type your age. Now, not actually typing your age. We're going to type the words your and age. Space, and we're going to hit equal symbol. And then on the third placeholder, we're going to type the predicted maximum heart rate. Okay, we are completed with step 6. You can see our dialog box has showed up on the left-hand side. We're now going to go into step 7, where we're going to start formatting, resizing, positioning, and coloring in the SmartArt graphic to make it match with the theme of the rest of the document. So we're going to click on the outside frame of the SmartArt graphic. Make sure the entire SmartArt is selected here. So if you click on here and you do a single box, you can see the white boxes are highlighting one piece. You haven't selected everything. Choose the outside frame or outside edge, and you should only see these white dots around the big outside area. Now on step 7B, we're going to go into the size group on the SmartArt Tools Format tab. So SmartArt Tools Format tab. The size grouping on the bottom is on the right-hand side, and we're going to choose a height of 1.5, and we're going to choose a width of 2.6, and just hit your enter button after that. So we shrink our SmartArt graphic down pretty substantially. Next, we're going to click the Wrap Tools button, which is in the SmartArt Tools Format tab, and we're going to choose to wrap the text. Arrange group. Here we go. There we go. So we got the arrange grouping and the wrap text. And we're going to choose to do it square. Okay. So you can see that moved the parenthesis or paragraph up real close to it. Everything's wrapped right into a square of that image. So we're now on step 7D. We're going to click the position button, which is on the SmartArt Tools Format tab. So we have the Format tab and we have the Position button. And we're going to choose to position this, where are we at? With more layout, and we're going to choose a horizontal area. So we got the Position tab open. We're going to come to the very bottom and hit More Layout Options. And from More Layout Options, we are going to choose to put this in the horizontal area to an absolute position of 4.5. So absolute position, we're going to put in a 4.5. And in the vertical area, we're going to change it to an absolute position of 0.4. Not 0.04, but 0.4. And we're going to choose to position this below the margin. And the top one was to the right of the margin. So we have absolute position 4.5 to the right of the margin, and a vertical absolute position of 0.4 below the margin. Let's go ahead and hit OK. You can see that moved it around pretty to the right. It looks nice, a little bit better now. So with that still selected, we're going to select this SmartArt Intense Effect. So we're going to change how this thing looks a little bit now, make it a little bit more aligned to the theme. So in the SmartArt Styles, SmartArt Tools Design tab, and we're going to choose the SmartArt Styles. You can see this is the big right-hand piece. Hit our radio button to open up to more. And we're going to choose the Intense Effect. So we got Intense Effect, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns over, first row. And we're going to click on the edge of the first text box and select it and hit Control B. All right, so we are now in step 7I. We're going to click on the edge of the first text box to select it and press Control B to apply a bold formatting. So we're going to choose on the edge and then Control B. You got it made it nice and bold. And we're going to format this with the other two text boxes. So selecting those, Control and B. And select that and Control and B. Make sure you select the whole thing. So you should see everything bold. If you only selected one image or one word, it will only bold the single word. So make sure you don't select just one piece. You select the right-hand side so that everything is selected. All right, and so we are now on to step 7J. We're going to select this last text box, and we're going to click on the SmartArt Tools Format tab. So let's go ahead and make sure we're selected. SmartArt Tools Format tab. And we're going to click on the Shape Fill button, which is in the Shape Styles grouping, and we have a Shape Fill button. And we are going to do a Shape Fill of Red Accent 2. So let's find Red Accent 2, so it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns in, first row. And then we're going to choose, all right, so we've done that for the very last text box, the predicted maximum heart rate. And we are now on to step 8. We're going to insert a picture and resize and position the graphic. So we now have a nice little SmartArt graphic. We have a title, and now we're going to put in a picture. And the picture, I'm going to take a wild guess and say is the resource picture that we downloaded from our website earlier. Remember that I put my resource picture on my desktop. If you put it somewhere else, you're going to have to locate it elsewhere. So we're going to place the insertion point at the end of the second section heading, which is target heart rate. So let's go ahead and put our cursor at the end of the second section heading, target heart rate. And we're going to place an insertion point here, and we're going to click on the Pictures button, which is in the Insert tab, and the Illustrations grouping, and we're going to choose Picture. Now, we need to go to our desktop and find that resource file, which is WD 2016 resource. We're going to choose Heart Rate 04, and we're going to choose to insert these. Now, you can see that moved everything around. It looks like garbage. It screwed up all my tracking and everything, so I'm going to take a wild guess and say we're going to resize this. We're going to reposition it. We may wrap some text. We're going to move this around so it fits with the flow of the rest of the document. So now we're on to step 8D. We're going to change the height of the picture. So let's go ahead and select our picture. We come into our Picture Tools Format tab on the right-hand side, and we're going to set this with a height of 1 inch. And we'll notice that when I set the height of 1 inch, the width automatically changes, and I'm going to hit my Enter button. So we didn't have to set the width. It automatically aligned. And we have a pretty small image now. So we're on to step 8E. We're going to choose to the Wrap Text button, which is on the Picture Tools Format tab in the Arrange grouping. And we're going to choose to wrap text. And we are wrapping this text in a form of tight. Okay. So all the text is very, very close to the image, but notice it still is cutting the paragraph off in the middle. Makes it almost impossible to read. So we're going to have to remove and move this picture around a little bit. Next, we're going to click on the Align button, Picture Tools Format tab, Arrangement group. And we're going to align this to the Align Right. So we moved our picture over to the right a little bit. All right, we're now on to step 9, and we're going to format this picture and insert a caption. If you're working with any ADA compliance, any e-readers or students or any individual with special needs, you're required with ADA compliance to put in captions for images, which is why we're showing you how to do this. So if you're going to hand off a document into the real world, your images need to have a small descriptor of what they actually are. So we're going to click on with the picture selected, we're going to click on the More button in the Picture Styles grouping, Picture Tools Format Styles grouping, and we're going to go to the bottom right-hand corner, and we're going to choose the dialog box, the More button, and okay, yeah, let's see, I lost my place, and we're going to choose to display the gallery of images. I open up the dialog box there, wrong one. So Picture Styles group, we're going to hit the More Radio button, and we can see as I hover over the top of my images, they actually adjust and modify in real time to show me what I want. And we're going to choose the Beveled Rectangle Picture Style. So we're looking for the beveled rectangle picture style. And it is more than likely one of these. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, second row. Next, we're going to right click on the image. So let's go here with our mouse, right in the center. We're going to right click on it. We're going to pop up with some new commands here, and we're going to choose to insert caption. So towards the bottom, right above wrap text, we have insert caption. And this caption, we're going to choose to insert a caption of I guess figure 1 is right. So we're going to insert a caption of figure 1. We're going to hit OK. You can see now it has a caption aligned to it. Next, on step 9E, we're going to select the caption placeholder text box. You can see it has it with the 4 boxes or 4 white circles around it. And we're going to choose the fill button, which is on the drawing tools format tab. And we're going to choose to shape fill. And we're going to fill this, the text fill button. I'm sorry, we're going to choose text fill, not shape fill. So this is in the word styles grouping, text fill. And we're going to fill this with red accent 2. So it should be first row, 6th column. So you can see here, the red is now matching up with the rest of our reds. With the caption text still selected, we're going to type in know your target. So let's go here and type in know. Let's go ahead and delete figure 1 and know your target heart rate. Make sure you spell everything correctly and put any punctuation uppercase stuff that needs to be. If it's not quite right, that will count you off. So in the size grouping next, we're going to go to the drawing tools format tab, which is where we're at already. We're going to change the caption height to 2.2 inches. So I'm going to make sure my caption is selected. We're going to go height instead of 0.44. We're going to change it to 0.2 and the width to 1.5. So 1.5. Next, we're going to hit the control key and click the picture. So let's go ahead and hit control key and hit our picture. And notice what's happened here. We've actually selected 2 separate entities, and now we can group these together. And so we can move them around, align them, and do that kind of stuff. We're going to go to the click on the align button, which is in the drawing tools format tab, and we're going to click on align center. So drawing tools format tab, and we're going to choose align, and we're going to align center. And so you can see that they align the 2 items together to make them center to each other. We're going to click on the group button, which is in the arrange group, and select group. Okay, so now we have both the image and the caption are actually one individual piece. So we don't have to select both of them anymore. All we have to do from here is save our document. So let's go ahead up to the top left corner, hit our save button. Now I'm going to hit my file, backstage view, just to make sure. I'm going to choose my desktop. I'm going to name it the same thing it's been named, hit save. And so we have this saved. Now I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to open back up my Simnet environment. And I'm going to choose to go with the right-hand side of my dashboard. I'm going to choose upload my file. And we're going to find out if Professor P is actually any good, because we're going to upload this and get it graded. Here we go. Logan Phillips, maximum heart rate. Hit upload. Yes, I am ready to submit. And it looks like we got 100%. So it almost looks like I know what I'm doing. Now, if you got something incorrect, you can always change the bottom or the document to whatever you need. If it's incorrect or partially incorrect, it will tell you exactly what you got incorrect and how to fix it, change it, re-upload it, and resubmit it again. And so you'll get your 100 points. Guys, that is the Microsoft Word 2016 Guided Project 4-2 for Simnet. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I'm here to help. I am your professor. As Jimmy Buffett always says, have a very fruitful day, guys.